been suspected of being sober, but I've been suspect of plenty of other things, I guess. My name's Dan. I'm an alcoholic. And it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be asked to this. It was kind of a last minute thing. Jason's wife had called me and asked me if I could do this. And I was like, everyone's like, well, if someone asks you to do something in AA, you say yes. All right. And then she's like, well, it's a speakers meeting. Hold on. Like, all right. Okay, I'll do it. And so I'm just kind of winging it right now. But yeah. I don't want to get into too much detail, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I grew up in the Seattle area. I went to Bothell High School. I played sports. I had a pretty normal childhood. I started drinking regularly when I was probably about 13 or maybe 14 years old. But I do remember when I was about 10 or 11, I did. My neighbor and I were down in his parents' basement, and they had this liquor cabinet closet thing, and we went in there. We were tasting grenadine. That stuff's good, it's like sweet. And then we found this bottle of had a picture of a peach on it, and it was not very good, but it got me buzzed. And I remember that feeling of that warmth and like warm comfort feeling in my body. And I did like a dead man's fall on the couch, and I could feel like I felt different. I felt better. I could feel that relief, even though I don't really know what I was relieved from. I'm 10. I don't know what you're worried about, but I liked it. And it was a very memorable moment of all the things in my childhood. 10-year-old drunk me was very memorable. So I was introduced, or it was suggested that I go to AA by my attorney back in 2002. After I got in a really, really bad, it wasn't an accident. I got in a car wreck. And if it was an accident, that would be one thing. But I actually intentionally crashed my car because I was depressed and I wanted to die. And that was my first, it was the first time anyone ever suggested that I might be an alcoholic. I'm like, dude, no, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not going to AA. He's like, well, if you go to AA and get the slip sign, they'll probably reduce the charges. I'm like, I'm not going to AA. I'm not going to get the slip sign. And so instead of getting my charges reduced, I dug my heels in and took a higher charge. And I was a felon for 8 years. Basically what the accident was I was getting on the freeway at 6:30 in the morning. I was drunk, obviously, stepped on the gas and let go of the wheel. And I hit the center divider going like 70 miles an hour. And I spun through 3 lanes of traffic, injured 2 other people, totaled 2 other cars. And and I still didn't, that was kind of a little snapshot of what my life was like. I didn't give a shit about anybody. And I made everybody a victim of my state of mind. I don't know. I took my frustrations out on the entire world, and I didn't care who was affected. Anyway, so yeah, my attorney said, well, you should go to AA. And I was so adamant that I was not an alcoholic that, first off, it took me 6 years of going in and out of AA to even believe I was an alcoholic. But the very first meeting I even bothered to open my mouth and say anything is, I said, my name's Dan, and I don't think I'm an alcoholic. And I fucking hate coming to these meetings. And if you didn't sign my fucking slip, I wouldn't have to come here. And fuck you, fuck me. I don't remember what the response was, but it was probably keep coming back or something like that. Going in and out of the rooms for 6 years. Then I finally got my 3rd DUI and 4th or 5th, I don't know, outpatient. And they told me that I should go to meetings. So I kept going to meetings. And then my counselor asked me point blank one day, I don't know what I was saying, I was just kind of yapping away. And she's like, so are you an alcoholic? And I said, yeah. And so for the first time in my life, it sunk in. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I am actually an alcoholic. And so I hope I'll never forget that moment. Dude, it's hot in here. But it was a very pivotal moment in my recovery. Let's see. So at that point, basically, I just had gotten, I was so sick and tired of getting thrown in jail that I was willing to go to any length to do what I had to do to stay out of jail. Like, I've been in handcuffs so many times. I've been in the backseat of cop cars so many times. It was like routine. And since that day, in fact, actually, that was the last time I ever got taken to jail. It was in 2008. And I was when I finally came to terms with the fact that, yes, I'm an alcoholic and I need to get this, like, I need to do something about it. And it wasn't that I wanted to get sober. Like I said, I just wanted to stop going to jail. At that point, for me, it wasn't a life or death situation. I just my life was absolutely unstable and unmanageable, and I didn't really even know it. I've worked. I've had I don't know how many different jobs. I've worked in 42 different restaurants, bartending, serving, waiting tables, whatnot. Not to mention a couple other dozen other construction jobs or whatever, real estate. I did mortgages for a while. And I had no direction. I was unstable. Like, I had no, I didn't have any idea what I wanted out of life. And I just didn't care. Like, I really didn't care. I didn't realize that I couldn't control my drinking. I thought that when I would decide to stop at 7-Eleven on the way home after work, it was because I changed my mind. And somehow my car just kind of drove itself into 7-Eleven. And I picked up usually a 24 pack, because then that way I wouldn't have to get in my car and drive back down. I tried to control my drinking sometimes because I had the interlock device in my car at one point. So I would go and buy like 2 40s, or just enough so I couldn't start my car. And I'd go home, drink that, and then I couldn't get back to the store to buy more beer. And so that was my way of managing my drinking. And then about 1:45, I would sprint down to 7-Eleven, and buy probably another 2 cases of beer so that I wouldn't have to go back again. That was, that was how I rolled. This clock's going really slow. Anyway, well, I guess this time around, I finally, I had gotten into it. I stopped drinking in 2017 for about 4 years, and because I got in a relationship, I got engaged, and at that point, I had actually had a fatty liver, and I had a hiatal hernia in my throat from puking so much and from coughing so hard from smoking weed that I had to have an operation on my on my throat, and so it was enough to kind of get me that idea that maybe I'm just a heavy drinker, because it says in the book something like you can get into some people will get into a relationship or by a doctor's suggestion stop drinking, and they're fine. But what I was doing also was smoking pot 24 hours a day. Like, there was years on end where there wasn't a second in any day that I wasn't stoned. So I guess they call that the marijuana maintenance program, and which was that was me. But it didn't mean that I wasn't an alcoholic. It just meant that I had something else to kind of tide me over. And not to mention, I wouldn't have a fiance if I drank. So what I decided at one point was that I wanted to spend all my time with who I wanted to spend all my time with, not with my family. I wanted to spend all my money on everything I wanted to spend my time with, not my family. I wanted control over every single aspect of my life. So I moved out very suddenly, very unceremoniously, just was like, we're done. And I moved out, got a room, got really drunk, really, really drunk. Like, I hadn't quit for, like it was just like I picked right up where I left off. And so what I wound up doing after that was I spent all my time alone, drunk and high, and all my money got spent on drugs and alcohol. And so I got to a miserable point again where this time it had become a life or death situation, because I wanted to die so fucking bad that I couldn't trust myself to walk past a ledge or not take the first opportunity to just kill myself. Like, I got to a point where I had, I was at work and I had to leave in the middle of the morning because I was going to kill myself. I was sober. The meeting, like just the night before, I spoke up at the end of the meeting. I said, "Look, I don't think I'm going to make it to the end of my life without killing myself." And like it was as dire as it could get. Walked out of the meeting, went to work. Someone from work the next day took me to the hospital. I was there for a week. I hadn't slept for a week too, anxiety. But the thing is that what I found out is that the thing that was helping me with my alcoholism was alcohol. And then if you take away the alcohol, now I'm just an alcoholic without any kind of a solution. And I had no idea how to have faith in any kind of a higher power. I didn't want faith in a higher power. I knew there was a God, but I hated God. I hated my life. I hated God. I hated everybody. I'm just going to say it. I fucking hated that motherfucker. And that's about how bad I felt about it. He was like, it was severe. You know, I had no solution. I had no means to get well. I feel like I'm all over the place. I wish I could just kind of focus and stay in one track. But anyway, so I'd gotten to the point where I wanted to die. And I couldn't trust myself not to kill myself. So I went to the hospital. I got out. And this was in January of 22. Started working the steps. Stayed sober for about a year and a half. Got to the fourth step. Not quite a year and a half. Got to the fourth step. Sat on the fourth step. On a mountain of resentment, on a mountain of anger, shame, guilt, remorse, all the stuff. Basically looking over it, wishing I'd had lived a better life and having no way to change that. You know, I was wishing for a better past. Had no prospects for a good future. I couldn't see living past more than a week. Like, yeah, I'm really all over the place. I really don't feel like I'm articulating a lot of what I like to say, but anyway, so long story short, let's bump forward to the good part. So last August, I was laying in my trailer. I'd gone out for a 2-month relapse after about a year and a half or so. And I'd gotten to a point where I finally was just like, I finally got to a point where I was like, look, dude, I don't know what the fuck, but just help. I looked up and I was just like, I was praying to God, just fucking help. And the the words, whatever came into my head. And he's like, all right, dude, you did the best you could, get the fuck back to AA. And that was as plain English as I can put it in. Like those are the words I heard. And the two things that happened in that moment were, first off, I realized that I'm not a perfect person and that I'm human and I make mistakes, and that I found a connection and a dynamic with a higher power that worked at that point. Never found that before. I couldn't trust God. I didn't want to trust God. And so I did. I trusted God. I got back to AA. Same exact day that I got back, I talked to Jason, asked him to be my sponsor and take me through the steps. And it's been a completely different story this time. Like this time, I'm not willing to go to any length to stay out of jail. I'm willing to go to any length to not die, or at least not want to die. So yeah, Jason was kind enough to take me on and be patient with me and listen to my shit when I come over to his house, and take me through the steps the way he's been shown to take people through, was taken through the steps. And we've gotten to, we're at the 12th step, but I'm kind of sitting on the 8th step right now. Having a new open mind and a new experience, for like the set aside prayer says, and it's different this time. But it's good, and I can feel it working. And this whole program has completely changed my life. It's changed my attitude. I feel like a completely different person than I did even a year ago, and even just 9 months ago. And anyways, that's about it. I'm getting close to time, and I'm sorry. I wish I had been a lot more articulate and smooth in what I had to say. It just wasn't always all up there, and maybe next time I'll have a better message. But anyways, thanks for asking me to share tonight. Thanks.